And here I am. Welcome this morning. So thank you for joining us on NETGEAR's live event where we're going to be introducing the M4250 Pro AV 1 gig switches. So I'm going to give you a twirl through all kinds of amazing stuff today. I've got some friends with me to come and join me. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Richard Jonker, the Worldwide VP of SMB Product Management. Hello, Richard. We're socially distanced.
Good afternoon, guys. How are you?
No, they're not answering us, Richard. They're not answering us yet. We're going to have to warm them up for a bit. So we're also joined by Mr. Laurent Masia, our Director of Worldwide Managed Switches, very much the driving force for a lot of stuff you're going to see with us and hear from us today. So I'm also going to introduce Mr. Neil Smart. So Neil is our Pro AV Senior SE for EMEA. He's sitting on the chat window, so do ask him questions as we go through. I'm going to try and answer them. Neil's paid per question, so if you don't ask any questions, Neil doesn't get paid, so make sure you ask him some doozies along the way. We're going to launch straight into a sizzle video first off, so we're going to warm you up with that. So I'm going to pass you off and we'll join you back in a moment.
Introducing the all-new NETGEAR M4250 series AV line switches. Engineered and designed from the ground up to exceed the increasing demands of AV professionals. Featuring all ports on the back with status lights on the front and a range of sizes. Starting as low as 8 ports and a variety of PoE options for up to 90 watts per port, the M4250 series supports any 1 gigabit AV over IP deployment. Pre-configured for out-of-the-box functionality, these switches can be up and running with little to no configuration. When more configuration is required, a dedicated web-based GUI specifically created for AV professionals is available. Software-controlled fan adjustments enable the fans to be turned off when ambient temperature and PoE loads are appropriate for a totally fanless and acoustic-friendly operation. Mounting flexibility is crucial. Along with reverse rack mounting, threaded holes on the chassis allow for universal mounting options outside the rack as well. The new NETGEAR M4250 series AV line switches are here.
Oh, sorry, just finishing my game of Snake. So Richard, we're gonna launch straight into you, Richard. I'm gonna ask you, real simple, tell me why. Why do we need these switches? Why are they as amazing as we think they are? Talk to us why.
They are amazing, and there's a few reasons why. And for that, I need to bring two planets together, because that is the whole story of today. There's the world of audio video, and there's the world of IT. And so behind me, you see some of that IT and AV speak. And just like people from different planets, they don't speak each other's language, right? Maybe they can see each other, but they definitely don't understand each other at all. So that's what we're trying to resolve here today. We're going to talk about how that comes together. And let me start with saying how networking evolved, because AV was already there, right? AV started with the first silent movie that changed into a movie with sound. And that's 100 years ago. IT had to develop, and we did. As an IT industry, we started with doing things analog and they became digital. And then from digital, they became streaming. Let me give you an example. When I grew up, music was on long player, 12-inch plastic record that you would have to play on a record player. And that changed in the 80s into CDs. It changed into MP3s. And now people don't buy music anymore. They stream music. And similar things have happened in this whole world of technology with other media, right? Video. It was first a videotape, and then it became a digital medium like a CD or a DVD, and now it becomes streaming. And now people don't buy anymore; they stream. And all of this is now happening in many corners of the AV world, where, for example, video gets streamed to screens in a supermarket, narrowcasting, for example, and all of that is transported by packets, little tiny packets that go over a network, because an IT network and the internet and streaming all use the same technology, which is TCP/IP, right? We network geeks, we love to talk about that. It's not necessarily something that AV people love, And we're here today to say we've brought you a more useful form of TCP/IP to use. We created a product that is a blend of two planets, two technologies. And it took a while because, there are Ethernet switches in AV. We have AV over IP already for a few years, but it's definitely not the easiest thing to install. Well, maybe if you have 2 or 3 sources and a couple of screens, it's doable. But if it becomes bigger, you need to deal with bigger Ethernet switches, like the ones that we as an IT company sell into the enterprise. If you try to use those switches, then you need to have thorough training, because the interface of these switches looks like the cockpit of a Boeing 747. There is buttons and meters everywhere, even behind you. It's very hard to understand. And AV people love technology, but that technology has to pertain to audio and video. They're really good at that. And they get certifications and training, much more even than in the IT world. Training from organizations like Avixa or Cedia, from the giants in the industry like Crestron or Extron. But typically a thorough IT training for switches is not part of that, because that's just not what you do. And then it becomes scary if you need to set up a switch for an AV installation, particularly if that is a big installation with multiple switches. And then it's overwhelming, right? You need to do command line, like the thing behind me. You need to understand PTP, IGMP, RSTP, LACP, DHCP. It's just crazy, right? And that's because the IT industry has created this product as a lock-in model in an ecosystem for big switch vendors that want you to be really locked into this. They don't want it to be easy. They want this to be difficult. Well, it's a form of job security, and that's really big in the IT industry, but it's not useful for AV. So our AV customers have told us a completely different story. It's amazing. They just want something that works, that you can plug in and that does what it needs to do without having to go into command line interfaces and type all kind of magic in commands that nobody understands. And that is because they're much more focused on the application, and that's what we'll see today. We'll talk a lot about that specific application, and that application determines how the switch works. So it's not the switch that's important here, it's the application that drives the behavior of the switch. We'll look into that, how that is being configured, and how easy, after years of working on this, we've made the new AV line of switches, made with the AV professional in mind, not with the IT professional. And we went pretty far. When we designed these, we asked ourselves, how does an AV switch have to look? Because, let's be honest, they didn't exist yet, right? A professional Ethernet switch just made for AV applications wasn't really there. Of course, there are Ethernet switches, and some of them were painted black, so they look a bit AV-ish, but that's not what you want in an AV installation. First of all, this all needs to fit in a typical AV rack with the indicators on the front, easy to understand, and all the cables in the back. And it shouldn't be noisy. Now, in the IT world, where NETGEAR is originally from, switches were not beautiful because, first of all, they sit in a data center, and usually in a data center, the light is off, right? Nobody cares how the thing looks. They have the cables, the lights, everything on the front because it's a data center world, right? You see here, this is a data center that has these switches in it, and someone walks by and everything is just, facing that person. So completely different way of organizing inside the switch, how everything is wired, which means they had to be designed from the ground up, which gave us the opportunity to, for example, put indicators on the front and on the back, and to have the cables nicely grouped on the back, and to have the power supply in the back, and made sure that on the front you just see what you need to see with a high quality finish, right? The way you're used to in the AV industry with high-end equipment. It's got to look good. So we learned that, and we also learned that you have to integrate these products into a solution. It's not the switch that counts. So we had to understand how to work with an AV application rather than send someone into this maze of IT settings. And for that, we had to understand what kind of profile the AV professional wants in the switch. Take audio, for example, Dante, QSYS, AES67, all of these audio protocols that are just, your daily routine, they require different settings in an Ethernet switch. And in order to do that, we had to really deeply understand both the way these protocols work and the way it works in Ethernet in the layer 2 and 3 world. So we kind of merged that together. And in a way, I think the most important thing is that we've created an interface that is AV-centric next to the IT interface. So that's what we're going to talk about more today. And I think with that, the most important thing of today is, let us show you how the AV world and the IT world come together in the AV line of M4250 managed switches for the AV industry.
Here I am. We had some good movement
Kieran.
going on there, Richard. Welcome back. What an overview from Richard, blah 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 blah. Mr. Richard Jonker. Richard, look.
Thank you.
I don't want to ask too much to give away about what we're going to talk about today, but for the folks out there, is there anything like what we're going to see today from anybody else out there?
No, this is completely new. You'll see something that has never been done. You'll see a whole bunch of industry firsts that have been designed from the ground up, and that's a very exciting moment for us.
Fantastic. Well, look, Richard, thank you. We're gonna bring you back in a moment, and I'm gonna bring Mr. Laurent Masia in now. And Laurent is gonna join us for a moment somewhere. Laurent, are you there? Oh, there he is. There he is. I'll crouch down for you here, Laurent. I'll come low. So, Laurent, look, I'm going to ask you, talk to us about the hardware, right? So when we buy a car, the first thing we look at is the outside. We look at the tin, we look at the metal. Talk to me about why this tin is so important. And it's important for you guys to obviously understand Laurent is absolutely the driving force behind this, all the way from conceptual idea to planning to testing to drawing images in paint to seeing it in reality itself. So he is absolutely the man to share this with us. No pressure there, Laurent. No pressure, mate. You talk to us.
Hey, Kieran. Thanks for having me. And full disclosure, I'm not an artist at all, right? So bear with me. And hi, everyone. Very enthusiastic, very exciting moment. This is Laurent. I'm the PLM for this 4250. And let me drive you through the hardware. Thank you, Kieran. So see how different these AV line 4250 switches are. This is different from any other NETGEAR switch, right? I mean, in the front, you have this black display panel with the status information. That's it. There's nothing else. And with the ears, that you position on the side to rack mount these switches in a typical AV rack, well, this switch will look extremely good. So on the front panel, we show all the information that is relevant for you in the AV space, the system LEDs, the fan, the power over Ethernet, plus the individual port information for link, connectivity, status, and the PUE as well. So needless to say, Richard, my boss, said it very clearly, in the AV world, aesthetics is really important. So the goal here for the 4250 is really to be nicely integrated with any other piece of AV equipment in a typical AV rack. So now you can see the back of these switches where all the cabling is. And on the left, you have the out-of-band OOB port for the management. You have the console ports, both the Cisco style RG45, RS232, and the USB-C. In the middle, you have all the IOs, so the RG45s, access ports with the blue PUE LED information, the fiber ports, the uplink, and on the right-hand side, for the first time, I believe, you can see a on-off switch next to the power, very practical to, shut down the switch or just switch it off and back on. I want to mention something really important here because it was alluded already by Richard, but we have the status LED information on both sides. That's an industry first. So we not only present the status on the front, but also in the back. Every single LED is duplicated. We have a double circuitry for complete information in both sides. So something also that never really existed in the, kind of AV lookish switches out there, we have a reversed mounting option. So if you have an AV rack against the wall, you may want to position it IT style, right, with the ports on the front. So those little rack mount ears can be positioned on both sides so that if you want to have all the port connectivity in the front, you can do so. Next, we also had to defy the law of physics. All these ideas, all these requirements, as Richard explained, went from deep discussions over the years with AV professionals all over the world. And sometimes we were said, look, guys, the AV racks, they are very tiny. When we need to reverse the switches to mount them with the ports in the front, when we shut the door, there's not enough room for cabling. So in the box, you can find a second pair of ears in order to recess the switches back to 5 centimeters or 2 inches. And that's unique. So you don't need new glasses. It's another piece of rack mount ears. And of course, you can use it when you want to make room for the cabling in front of the switch. So I told you, these switches, are really amazing. That's another first, and I mean it, for the AV and IT industries combined. The software in the 4250 AV line switches knows how to manage fans. It means that you can shut down.
I'll tell you what, Laurent, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there because I feel like we're bridging the gap from software to hardware, and I think we need to give you a bigger platform here. So I'm gonna ask you, finish off and tell us about the sound, but I think this is a great time for you to lead in and also give us a little demo on the 4250s and show us the software itself.
Oh, that's my pleasure. Okay, for sure. So I will demo it live with you right now. But just finishing off here, the fans can be managed and shut down so that you can have a fanless operation in a recording studio or a meeting room, right? And also, if you really want to profit from the entire PWE budget, you can ask the switch to be so quiet that it will be whispering in comparison to any other IT switch or AV switch in this industry. So let's go for the demo. You're right, Kieran. All right, so you know what? I am going to fire up the web interface that we have named the AV UI. So, of course, I will show you the kitchen next, okay? Because you want to see what's behind this, the normal IT style and all the settings that are configured by us after that. So let's log on the first M4250 switch that we have right there. You see the IP address, just add the colon and 8080. By adding this colon 8080, you will then log on the AV UI. And this is a really different experience. As Richard explained, we don't want to replace one interface by the other. We want to provide a dedicated interface for the AV jobs, your jobs. So the overview is only, the high level information for the ports, what is connected, the device detailed, the profiles that we have in there. For now, it's pretty empty. There's only one management profile, CPU utilization, memory, and the fans. So this one is what I wanted to show. The quiet mode provides you with the entire capabilities of the switch, full PWE budget for the PWE switches, full ports utilization. The cool mode, well, don't go there. That's really much for the IT boys who want a cold case, right? So a lot of noise. And then the fan off mode that we are going to keep for now, because I don't want to have any whispering sound in my microphone. And again, this is a world first. The entire 4250 range can be operating in fanless mode. So enough, let's go to the point. What do you want to do when you have an AV installation? You want to connect AV devices, right? So the first thing you are going to do is to click network profiles. And if there's one thing you know when there is a new job coming, this is which types of AV devices you need to deploy today. So we have a list of AV profiles grouped into pure audio for Dante, for QSys, for AVB, and for AES67. Those are audio-only profiles. Then we have a large combo profile called video. This is really much of a combo because it is approved and certified by most, if not all, the AV manufacturers, from the NVXs to the AMXs, to the Dante video, to the NDI, and so on. So this will be reserved for video over IP. And last but not the least, we have another third group of hybrid profiles, because you may know that nowadays you have some video encode decode units that can de-embed audio and send the audio to the networks using QSys or AES67 or Dante. So the hybrid profiles lets you do that. And if we have time at the end, we will even try something even harder with audio sent to a different VLAN. So let me take an example, Kieran. You have a job coming today and you're in a hurry. You want to cut the switch in half, right? And you want to do Dante on the first 4 ports for audio, and you want to do a video installation, let's say with the NVXs, the latest ones, the 360s, on the 4 next ports. So let's start with audio Dante. We just need to select the profile. We are going to tell the switch, look, I want you to do Dante on the 4 first ports. Let's give it a name. That's going to be our Dante primary. My customer today told me there's already a VLAN for Dante operating. That's the VLAN ID 20. And let's choose a color. Red is never good, so let's go for the green color. And that's it. So we have specified 4 first ports in the VLAN 20 for Dante. And now the net result is that we have 4 green ports correctly specified for Dante with the VLAN ID 20. So Kieran, you're done for the first half. Now let's configure a video profile on that switch. To do so, we are going to find the video general profile, select it, select the 4 next ports, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say that's my NVX new 360 series. In terms of color, we may want to take some light blue, for instance. And well, the customer this time is really picky. He doesn't want to put all those video packets into the Dante VLAN. He wants to segregate them, and well, that's a good thing. So let's say we are going to create a new VLAN 10 for that. And see, now, Kieran, you're done, because you just configured 4 other blue ports correctly specified for video NVX operation. So, do you want to see the kitchen real quick, just for the pleasure? Because did we configure anything here? No.
I think we want to.
Did we?
I think we want to see. Show us.
Okay. We didn't configure IGMP. We didn't configure DSCP. So let me show you the net effect of what you just done, Kieran. Let's log this time to the IP address of that switch, but without the Canon 8080, right? Same credentials. I will fire up the standard legacy IT GUI. And well, this is the kitchen. First of all, I believe you have seen, we have created 2 VLANs. They are right there. Of course, those VLANs must be properly configured for the IGMP. And of course, all these switches, 4250s, 43, 4500s, they are pre-configured. So you might tell me, well, not a good deal. But see, the VLANs are correctly configured too, the two new 10 and 20 VLANs. So the IGMP snooping VLAN configuration is all good, all ready to go. The fast sleeve is enabled, and the querier is also set up correctly. Now, if we want to configure a typical Ethernet switch like that, using Dante and the Audinate settings, it's really fastidious. We need to go to the QoS and make sure that the trust mode is not the COS, but the trust IP DSCP mode. Also, we need to follow strictly the guidelines from Audinate to make sure that the queue mapping is correct, especially the DSCP queues, because the 56 need to go to the 6th one. The 46 needs to go to the 5th one, and so on and so on. It's prone to mistake. If I'm not mistaken myself, I believe that we need also bonjour, right, to forward the MDNS packets that are utilized by Audinate for management, and PTP as well. And where PTP should be configured? Well, on the first 4 ports, because Kieran, you told the switch that you want to operate Dante audio on the 4 first ports. So this is how the switch was configured, and I cannot resist to the quick pleasure for showing the other kitchen, which is the CLI. See, in the CLI, logging into the USB console of that new M4250 switch, we see those messages because each time we have done something in the AVUI, we have created commands that were saved into the startup config. So let's log in the CLI real quick, and you will see a very nice summary using the show run to show the running configuration. Your VLAN database is all ready to go. IGMP Plus has been configured for automatic multicast across switches. You'll see that. The class of service for the DSCP mapping is right there. The interfaces are set to the right VLAN with the PTP for the first 4 ports. And then for the 4 next ports, we have the VLAN participation for the IGMP multicast. So see how different it is. Again, you got that with the 4250 switches. You have the CLI, you have the IT style management. But let me connect back to this AV user interface. Now, guys, this is how you should, moving forward, configure your AV switches, right? Because you trust that the profile got everything for you. So, Kieran, let me know if I have 5 more minutes to show 2 more things, quick things on that AVU interface.
We've taken a vote, Laurent, and you've got yourself 5 minutes, buddy.
Okay, great. Thank you, Captain. So I want to show you DHCP server operation, because we heard that, and not only me, you, Kieran, heard that for years, how incredibly difficult the DHCP server is to configure on a typical M43 or M4500 switch. So let's say you want to provide those NVXs with DHCP addresses. Just go back to your profile, edit it, and this is what we have done previously. See that toggle? Edit IP settings. You can ask the switch to remain layer 2 without IP addresses anyway, or you want to enable IP to go layer 3. And by doing that, you can actually set a static, directly a static IP address. Let's say you want to do a class A, like a 10.100. So, well, I'm old, I know, I speak of classes, so that's a class A, right? And this is now your IP address for that NVX VLAN. And see, you can now enable DHCP server right there. So if you want to use this management IP address as a router, you're just instructing the switch to use it. If you want to use a DNS server that is somewhere already present in your network, you can do so, and you save it, and you just enabled right there in the profile the DHCP operation. So all the NVXs will get a 10.0.10 IP address out of the switch. So I believe this is a strong improvement, because maybe Kieran, you can tell me, putting together the DHCP server always been a challenge, right? So
it has. You're putting me out of a job here, Laurent. I'm not going to lie.
So thank you. So now I want to show you the last small thing, but I believe it's going to be of interest for you guys. I've configured with you, I hope collaboratively, one switch. But if I was attending that show, I would say, hey guys, that's still a single switch, right? So not that difficult, usually with the typical Ethernet switch, one Dante and video on the right switch, on the single switch. And I would agree. So let's configure a second switch together and let's do the bridge. So we are going to connect to a PUE++ Ultra 90 PUE++ 802.3bt switch, another 4250 that I have right there. We are going to log to the AVUI directly together. And I'm doing that because all these switches, they have fiber ports on the right? So let's configure the interconnect. Let's add this other switch to the network. So in order to do that, going back to the first switch, we are going to create a link aggregation group, right, on those two fiber ports so that the switch knows how to connect to another switch. Let's create a lag. We can give it a name. This is going to be my lag. The lag ID number doesn't matter. We are going to do only one anyway, so that's going to be the first one. And see that trunk port toggle? Just clicking this trunk port, we are instructing the switch that we want the lag to carry all the profiles, all the VLANs that were created with all the goodness in it for the rules, the IGMP, the DSCP, and all that. Of course, don't forget to select your two fiber ports and save it. Oh, the configured profile should be the PVID or the primary. Doesn't really matter. Let's say that my primary will be the management VLAN. That's only the native VLAN. Saving it, now we have configured the switch to create a lag with all the profiles on the right-hand side. Okay, now let's go to the other switch. Let's say that we also want to configure the lag, because I want to do the exact same on the fiber ports on the right. Select those ports. This is my lag. This is my lag ID number 1, and I want it to be a trunk port as well. Now I can physically configure profile, primary, management VLAN. Of course, I can now properly connect those two switches using the fiber ports together. And let's continue there, because we have added a second switch. Well, that's because, Kieran, you may want this time to do Dante across the board for that switch. So let's configure Dante profile on that new switch. That's still my Dante primary. And even remember the VLAN ID for my Dante primary, that was the 20. Let's try to pick the same color. And we're done. Oops, let's select the ports. 6, 7, 8. Now we have a second switch configured with the Dante going on, and the lag is properly configured so that you link back to the other switch right there. So this is how we can scale. This is how we can add 1, 2, 5, dozens, hundreds of switches potentially, just by configuring the same profiles and activating the trunk modes on the uplinks so that everything is completely automatic. And now, Kieran, you maybe want to comment, traditionally, that's what is hard, right? How to manage this interconnect, how to make sure that the switches, they can talk with each other correctly. So this is how the new world is going to work.
Ooh, that's what we call a cheeky little switch here in England, Laurent. Now look, that's we cheeky Nando's, cheeky switch, cheeky Netgear, all works. So look, That's all pretty fantastic, right? And I'm sure the guys and girls are pretty amazed by that, and that's good. But we've got two other Pro AV switch range at NETGEAR, the M4300s and the M4250s. Now everything we've seen here is pretty specific to the 4250s itself. Now, what happens if I'm going to take one of these 4250s? I'm going to take the version that you've got there, and I need to expand out now to maybe a 100 gig M4500 Pro AV switch, maybe a distribution switch in between with an M4300 10 gig switch. Tell me how that's going to work. And I think you know what I'm trying to get at here, Laurent.
Yeah, and I will not let you go there. You know why? Because NETGEAR is a public company, so we cannot comment on future product introductions nor future product enhancements. Well, on the other hand, I would agree with you. It would be a great idea, right? To port this AV UI to the other switches, but we'll see. So for now, the AV UI is only there. So my best advice today first is to continue to trust NETGEAR, because in the next slide or two, I will tell you about IGMP+. IGMP+ is your insurance. By configuring the 4300s and the 4500s the same way as you have in the IT interface here, right? With IGMP+, you will make sure that all these switches can interrupt automatically using those link aggregation groups, those trunks. And by trunking the ports together, IGMP+ will manage automatically multicast between switches. So right now we can mix and match the 4250s with the 43 and the 4500s with one small caveat, right? The 43 and the 4500s will require a 90 style configuration, but now you have a good example, Kieran. You can start with the 4250s at the edge, and at some point just copy and paste what you have done here on the other 43 and 45, organize your link aggregation groups and include those lag into the proper VLANing, and you will be done this way. Does it answer your question?
Absolutely. So look, have we got any slides that we can share with the folks out there on IGMP Plus and show them the fantasticness on how this all works together for the guys and girls out there?
Of course. Let's go to that. So before I get there for the IGMP Plus, I just wanted to give you some more hints, right, on the 4250s. I mean, we have a new series that is out with 5 switches. The first 3 are PoE, and for those first 3 8-ports PoE models, you have ample choice. That's how another difference. That's how those switches differ from any IT switches, because we have different variations of PoE budgets. So you can go for a little bit of PoE for audio. You can go for higher full provisioning, 240 watts for video, like the NVX 360s and other 30 watts encode units. Or you can go to the PoE++, right, for even more PoE power for loudspeakers, or some special AV encode units like the QSC, QSys NV32Hs. Right, so IGMP+. Thank you, Kieran, because I think that really matters. So please listen to me. I don't want to lose you. Did we configure IGMP so far together? No. Did we configure IGMP in the AV UI? No. Did we configure actually IGMP Plus in the IT GUI when we quickly went over the effect of the configuration, the IT GUI? No. Why? Because IGMP is not a problem anymore. IGMP from day one, 25 years ago, with TCP/IP and the birth of the Ethernet world, IGMP was deficient, because for a single switch, IGMP is good. For multiple switches, IGMP was not good, because either IGMP was closed and no way to do multi-switch installations, or you were opening the gate with the MWAL mode on the uplinks, and then you were flooding the entire network. So that's why multi-switch installations from day one were complex, because IGMP was not usable. And some more complex PIM techniques with the sports mode or the source specific mode associated with unicast routes, maybe with OSPF. Only a few people on earth know how to do it properly, and maybe Kieran, you're one of them. So we fixed that, because IGMP Plus was re-engineered completely at NETGEAR. This is proprietary to NETGEAR, but you should love it, because now with the standard IGMP, you can connect plenty of switches and see on the right-hand side, if you have one source that is subscribed by a client at the other side of the network, only that multicast stream will be triggered to traverse the network. There is no more flooding, and the IGMP operation network-wide is similar to what happens on one switch. So IGMP Plus really is the key here. And because of IGMP Plus pre-configured out of the box, automatically enabled when we set up new VLANs, we can do this. We can build nice network architectures with the 4250s together in a typical star configuration. Take two of these new M4250 16XF, the 16-port fiber switches, typical core or spine switches. Then you can distribute your 1G other switches for audio, or your PoE switch with 10 gig uplinks for your video, because you need more bandwidth to carry the video streams. And IGMP Plus is taking care, you have the exact same IGMP operation as if it was a single collapsed core single switch. That's what I wanted to show to you.
Wow. Now, for any of you guys out there that have had to move multicast traffic around your network switches, and I'm certainly one of those, right? And Laurent, I don't know if you've ever heard from guys in IT, but for somebody to come along and chuck those amounts of multicast traffic on my network was pretty much a swear word in the IT world. So don't underestimate the importance and the fantasticness, I guess, that is IGMP Plus, right? For simplifying, getting rid of multicast, routing, ACLs, plug and play. Right, so I'm gonna take 2 seconds here. I'm gonna bring Richard back in as well. I've got Oh, hello, Richard. We lost.
We're back.
We're back. You are back. I'm going to take two, Richard. I'm going to ask a couple of questions that the guys out there have asked. So, Carsten asks us, could there be anything in terms of making a switch for a Nutric Ethercon connection for AV rental? Put you right on the spot there, Richard.
Yeah, that's a good question, and we do get that question more often, because all what we looked at today is beautiful in a setting where that switch just sits somewhere stationary, in a rack, and it doesn't move. But in the world of audio video rentals, these things get moved around, thrown around, put in trucks, taken from trucks, and a standard Ethernet switch with standard cabling would not be able to withstand that. In the AV rental industry, there's a standard connector, new trick for Ethernet connection, Ethercon, that is able to live through the onslaught that is the AV rental industry. Now, we are not into that. We have partners that are into that. So there are two possibilities here. Either we work with a local company that does this for us, or we partner with a global manufacturer that could work with our product and integrate it in their solutions. And we know there are companies that do this already for our current AV products, for the M4300. So I would not be surprised if after this event they feel invited to do something like that. So we're definitely interested in partnering with companies and build solutions for specific verticals like the AV rental industry.
Okay, so thank you, Richard. I'm just got another question here from Mark Palmer at Uplink. Mark asks, is there going to be a course certification for the 4250 switch? To you, Richard.
Well, we're definitely going to do training, but as you've seen, and this is before Laurent was pulling us into the kitchen and showed us all the IT nightmare, the M4250 AV interface is relatively simple. So yes, we will definitely develop training materials, and I think that's happening already, to show you guys how to properly configure that switch. And then here at the NETGEAR Academy, I can absolutely imagine that we'll do a little certification, a simple and maybe a more advanced course on how to configure these switches for your favorite AV protocol.
Fantastic. Thank you, Richard. Hopefully that answers your question, Mark. So we're going to flip now. I'm going to ask some questions, all right? So we've seen the products. We're going to bring Laurent back in as well. So we're gonna flip and ask some questions, because the product is great, right? The software is great. The guys have seen it out there. And then we actually want to know what else is there that NETGEAR has, right? Because there's multiple things. I can buy a product at a product level, and I get a product at a product level. But what else? What else can NETGEAR do for me, do for the guys out there? What can you tell us about services, hardware, support? What about those things? What is it that NETGEAR has available?
Yeah, let me help you here, because we've been overwhelming already, right? Although we tried not to. We've been overwhelming and talking about IT and Ethernet and packets and LACP. So we can imagine that you sometimes get stuck. So we have solutions for that. 3 solutions for when you get stuck. The first is the hardware warranty that we have is lifetime. So you don't have to worry. It is lifetime warranty. As long as you own the switch, it's under warranty, as long as you want. So you're always safe. If there is an issue with hardware, whatever happens, anything can happen. As we say here in the Netherlands, it's amazing what 30 meters of water can do to your IT equipment. We have next business day replacement, which means we just ship you a new one, and immediately you have the new product, just plug it in and continue, right? So you're never long out of your production, because we've got your back. We've got those replacement units in stock, so no worries there. And the third one is technical support. For the first 90 days, we use all the media that NETGEAR offers for technical support, and after 90 days, when the thing should be more than up and running, we have 24-hour chat support, which means you can always reach us and immediately get an answer on your technical question. So that's on the, let's say, after sales technical help, specifically for the product, like the physical switch, as you see here. But there's more, and maybe we can talk a little bit on the next slide on the help that we give you when it's not just about the switch, when it's about designing an entire network. Because Laurent made it seem easy, but you may still be a little overwhelmed. How do I do that? Design a network with multiple switches and do IGMP plus over multiple switches, and I have my audio and I have my video. Where do I start? Because I'm sure I can manage it once it's set up, but I gotta get the hang of it. Can you help me design it? Yes. So for 2 years now, we have a Pro AV design team all over the world. In every time zone, we have specialized people that can help you design the ideal AV network. Unfortunately, in the UK, you'll have to deal with Kieran here or with Neil Smart.
Very true.
They cover a large part of Europe, but we have people in every region that will help you. And these are people that have done this themselves. They have gone on site many times, which involves taking airplanes and flying to places and fixing designs even when they get implemented. Because it doesn't stop at just design service. We help you actually deploy these solutions. We train you, your people, your customer, on the use of our equipment. Not just this switch, but also the way it's integrated with the AV sources and targets, so that you have a good feeling about this complete solution. We do not stop just by shipping you a switch. And we found that has an amazing effect on the way we deploy our switches in the AV industry. It's been very popular, and our colleagues like Kieran here are, happily overloaded with these demands. And we've gone into installations that I think 2 years ago we wouldn't even have thought that would be possible, with hundreds and hundreds of screens and hundreds of sources in amazing venues all over the world, where people really now use the power of AV over IP to create the newest user experiences, where you don't even see that walls and ceilings and floors are covered in screens, and there's three-dimensional video and audio effects going through venues, whether it's a club or an art gallery or a hotel or a stadium. That's really going to revolutionize AV.
Let me interrupt.
Team, we make that possible.
Sorry, Richard. Let me just interrupt you to understand something there. Now, you're telling me the software, the support, and the design specification, all of this is free of charge, right?
This is all free of charge.
Where's
24 hours a day. And
there's a catch somewhere.
We're just here to help.
Wow. Right, and that is available now, right? So you guys can reach out, and we're going to bring Laurent in, and he's going to talk to us a little bit more about some of the designs and some of the networks that have been created from the Pro Design team. So look, Laurent, over to you.
Oh, thank you. So I have a nice one. Actually the third one I'm going to display will probably put you under shock, Kieran. But let's start with a simple one, right? Because today we are extremely excited. We are introducing the new AV line 4250 switches. So I wanted to just describe for audio, for those little Audinate Dante dongles, for instance, how you can scale right now. See, we have a 12 port of multi-gig Ethernet in the center that could be considered as a small core switch, copper switch. And we can then deploy a number of M4250's 8 ports of PoE with those Audinate dongles. And the beauty of it, believe it or not, it could remain factory default configuration. When we have only one type of device, like those Audinate audio dongles or video dongles, well, the basic default configuration will actually let you form such a design totally plug and play out of the box. So this is an example for 1G audio over IP. If you count it right, with 12 ports in the center, you can go up to the 96 port count really easy. Second example is the same, but this time using video. Never forget, guys, that when you are moving video streams, it's not like audio. A typical 1G video stream is really much 1 gig, right? So if you have 8 of those NVXs or AMXs or NDI units, TriCasters, you have 8 times 1 gig, so you need a 10 gig link to carry those streams to the network. So the 16-port fiber is good for that. Factory default, if that's the only thing you got, you can remain fairly confident that without any configuration, this will work out of the box. But here, Kieran, is the example, the real one. And I mean it because I just adapted a little bit this design in order to showcase the 4250 on the right-hand side, right? But this is a real-world install that is happening as we speak in the Nordics region in Norway, with literally thousands and thousands of NVXs. So in that case, proavdesign at netgear.com. proavdesign@netgear.com. Reach out to us because we don't want you to design and operate this large network on your own. If you have thousands of devices, you need 100 gig capable core, then you need a distribution layer, and then you have those access switches at the edge where all these 1G endpoints will be connected. And we have done this design using the 4300s, the bigger AV over IP IT style switches. But see, if we got meeting rooms in those locations, we could use the same way the 4250s with the lower port counts, because seamlessly 4250s, 4300s, and 4500s all do IGMP plus together and let you scale up to thousands of ports.
Wowzers. Oof, that was pretty amazing. So that was proavdesign@netgear.com. Remember to email us if you want some help. So look, we've got some questions here we're going to ask. So we've gone through a good portion of the show. We're going to take a look at some of the questions we've got from the guys out there. Fabrice asks us, in your demonstration, Laurent specifies a unique color per VLAN, but this is selected by switches. Is there a way to use the same color for the same VLAN throughout all switches? I'm going to throw that over to you, Laurent.
Oh, that's a great question. So it's cosmetics on, right? I told you aesthetics is important. So if you don't want to have the same color, you can actually pick up different colors. What is important is the VLAN ID and the type of the profile, right? So the color is optional. It's only cosmetics.
Fantastic. Hopefully that answers your question there, Fabrice. Very similar to VLAN names. We can call it the same ID throughout our switch network, but the name bears no relevance other than to us, I guess, is probably the best way to answer that. So pick your favorite color, Fabrice. He also asks, do you plan to design a software or hidden web page within the switch to see the whole network topology? Ooh, good question, I think.
This is a great question. So my boss is right there. So, you know, I need to repeat that. NETGEAR is a public company. We cannot disclose nor discuss future enhancements. But we have something right now that you got to use. Please install and use the NETGEAR NMS system, NMS 300, netgear.com/NMS 300, netgear.co.uk/NMS 300. This is a piece of software free of charge, up to 200 devices that you just set up on a Windows platform or a VM running Windows, and then you can discover automatically all these M4250s, M43, M4500 switches, provision them, and then instantly you see the topology, you see the network map. You can put colors in there too in order to set alerts if you want to be notified if there is too much packet loss or if the bandwidth utilization reaches a threshold. So we do have a NMS platform that is ready to go, that can be installed in minutes, that let you do that. But I got your point, and it would be a good idea to expand a little bit more the AV experience network-wide. We'll consider that.
Great. Very great answer there. There's a lot of free swear words going on here, Richard. You must be doing well to give all this away for free. It's Richard's miming that to us because I think he's swearing at Laurent for all the freebies he's giving away. So while we get him back on, Laurent, Timo asks us, how do we combine Dante VLAN with a video VLAN? Because AVX.
That is an absolutely lovely question. Two solutions. You have seen that if you have a video device that is de-embedding audio, right, using the Dante and sending and receive audio packets, you can pick the hybrid profile called video with Dante audio on the same VLAN, right? So you can do it with the Dante AV video products, or you can do it with many manufacturers like the
I'm back, guys.
Oh, good. You can do it with many of them if you are in the same VLAN, right? So we have a hybrid profile, good for video and good for Dante. But listen to me, please, 20 more seconds. If you have a very advanced box like a QSC NV32H, which is a video encode decode units that can de-embed audio and tag it, send it separate to the network. So let's say you are sending Dante with another VLAN tag because you want it to go to another VLAN, then guess what? We plan for it. That's the most difficult part in this AV industry when you got to do that. but it's going to be more and more often. You select the video profile, that's your primary profile, right? The blue ports. And then you get back, this time with the Dante profile or a QSys profile, and you will reselect the same ports, Kieran, but instead of clicking once, you will click twice, so that you see the little T, so that you are instructing the switch that those audio packets, they are not sent without this VLAN tag, so that you can put two profiles on a port. One is untagged, primary, and the second one is tagged. And with two profiles, you can mix and match any kind of video and audio profile.
Fantastic, thank you, Laurent. So look, guys, that's going to take us right up to the dot on the hour. So we want to thank you for joining us. If you did get a question there and you didn't get it answered, remember to reach out to us at academy@netgear.com. You can reach through to myself, through to Laurent, and through to Richard as well. So if you do have any more questions you didn't get and you want to ask, do ping them over. Thank you for spending your time with us today. Very much appreciate it. Obviously, there's going to be loads more stuff coming from NETGEAR, be it webinars, training, etc. So we're going to thank you. We're going to wish you a fantastic rest of your week, and we're going to sign out and see you all again very soon.